and we are talking about having difficult talks with your kids about any given subject. Right now, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world, and this is a great time to talk about it. So, if you're new to my broadcast, say hello, give me a hashtag new. And if you're not new, I still like to know who you are. So please say hello so I can say hello back. Let me open up this screen so I know I'm live with you guys and I can see you and see your comments. Okay. So, guys, let me tell you who I am for those of you that are new. I'm Celia Kibler, family empowerment coach. And what I do is I empower you parents and caretakers with techniques and strategies that are easy to follow, doable, actionable, and result-driven. So you can take your family from chaos to calm, from discourse to family harmony. So we are talking about the all-important talking to your kids. Because let me tell you guys, if you don't talk to your children, who is going to talk to them? Google, their friends. Where do you want them to learn this stuff from? You, right? Yes or yes. So that's what we're talking about. And how do you get started? You know, a lot of topics right now, there's a lot of political unrest going on, and it's a difficult topic. Sex, clearly an important topic to talk to your kids, yet people feel very uncomfortable. A lot of parents just don't feel comfortable talking to their kids about sex. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's a way of life, but it's a fact of life. But you need to really talk to your kids. You really need to start the conversation. Hi, Alyssa. How are you? Good to see you. Well, I don't see you. Good to see your comments. And thank you for joining me. Because sex, more importantly, the older they get, and now I have to say, guys, it's even younger and younger. They hear about it from other kids. And they're either going to form all these bizarre opinions about it before you even get to talk to them. So it's never too early to start. These conversations are never too early to start. Don't think you can't start talking to them. Now, you have to talk to them on an age-appropriate level. I mean, do not try to discuss sex with a 4, 5, or 6-year-old like you would discuss it with a 16-year-old. Clearly does not have to be that descriptive, does it? No. So I'm going to give you, I don't even know how many tips here, 10 tips maybe, something like that, about how to have difficult conversations with your children. I think conversations about sex are happening. Yes, they are. They are. I know when my daughter was young, and she's now 38, one of the kids in the neighborhood started talking to her when she was 8 years old. And I was like, oh my gosh, 8. Well, I'm going to sit down and have a conversation. But honestly, I feel like that's old. That's old for kids to hear about it. You know, there's so much on the internet, guys. You have to talk about it. You know, even in shows they watch, even when, you know, they're sitting there. Hi, Ben. They're sitting there talking about, you know, they're watching YouTube or their tablet. Who knows what pops up? And hopefully you're watching, so nothing too horrible pops up. But they'll get it from all kinds of places. So you got to be careful. Some cartoons are super racy for your kids. So really watch what you're doing. A lot of what I learned, I figured out on my own. My parents came from a different time. Yeah, exactly. Alyssa, mine too. I mean, my mom gave me a book. She gave me a book about sex, which I'm pretty sure I never read. And when I got my period, she slapped me. It's a Jewish thing. Don't really know the background on that. But that was it. Oh, she did tell me if I had questions, I could ask her. But what was I going to ask her? You know, and I grew up kind of naive. It took me a while to know about things like that. So now I have my children who are all grown up who teach me all kinds of things that I really don't need to know, especially my son. He's a crack up. It was taboo. People didn't talk about stuff like that. And now there's so much to talk about. I mean, your mom gave you a book about my body parts and call yeah. Exactly. Exactly. They're good at giving books. Not that if you have young kids, you shouldn't start reading books about body safety and going potty, and you should start talking about body parts. Don't just like ignore them like they don't exist. Talk to them and let them know that they're private and things like that. All this stuff that may hear on the news about, what went on yesterday. There's so much information being fed to our children these days that we have to be the fence posts to block it in or talk about it. You may need to turn off the news. Personally, I think you should turn off the news every day because those people are crazy. And it's a good way to get you into like serious depression mode. Find your news somehow out. Read articles on the internet. Find out your news from another source rather than sitting down and watching hours of news. Who has stopped watching the news? Give me a 1 if you have totally stopped watching TV news, regular news. There are some really good news outlets out there. But if you have stopped watching the news on TV, give me a 1. Because let me tell you, there's a lot of information there that your kids don't need to live day in and day out. Okay, so let's get to the list of how you're to approach talking to your kids. First of all, I want to remind you that you need to be a good role model. That means you need to be a respectful human being. You need to speak respectfully to your partner if you have a partner. Even if you have another parent who you're not living with, you need to show respect to them. You need to speak respectfully to your children and to strangers and smile and use your manners. You are teaching your children how to communicate to you and to others. You need to be a good listener. I stopped watching for a while when the pandemic was very bad. I recently started watching again with all the political coverage. I think it's important to be educated. Absolutely. And you can be educated without watching, the public news broadcasts. You can educate yourself and find out the news all kinds of ways. I totally agree. You have to let your child know that you're a good listener, you're open to hear what they have to say, and you will listen to them without judgment or criticism. And you will be there for questions and you're available for questions. And that's important to start when they're young. So by the time they get older, they know that you're the person to come to. You have to build an open road between you and your child. No walls. Don't put those walls up. Don't automatically judge. Don't automatically criticize. Don't automatically, call them a liar or call them any kind of names. Always be open to hear their side of the story. When you are open to listen to your children, they will come to you more often. I've been watching MSNBC for Steve Kornacki. I actually don't watch MSNBC, and I don't know Steve Kornacki, but I'll look him up. Since you love him, I will definitely look him up. Okay. So model a good communicative relationship, a good relationship where you are communicating with someone else on a respectful basis so that they see this. This should be taking place in your home so that they know you are not going to slam them down when they have some funky question to ask you. Be open. Let me tell you, I raised 5 kids into adulthood. That's 5 teenagers. That's kids that one of my kids had a hard time with drugs, alcohol. They had to go through sex and puberty and all of that. I was open to talking to all of them about everything. There was nothing I wanted them to feel like they couldn't come to me about. And they know they can still come to me. Okay, number 2. It should be an ongoing conversation. It should not be, okay, I have I have this little conversation to talk to you about, and then that's it, and never discuss it again. Yes, always. You always want your kids, your son, to be feeling comfortable to talk to you, always. And that will be developed when they're little, like your son is little. That starts right then and there. But make sure it's ongoing. Don't just bring it up once and then that's the end of the discussion. You want them to know that, okay, we talked about this. They thought about it for a week, 2 weeks, a month, and now they have questions. Let them know, hey, if you have any questions, you want to talk some more, I'm here. And then every once in a while, you may sit down with them and just chit chat about stuff. You may start talking about something you guys saw on TV or something you heard, from some friends, and it may develop into more and more of a conversation. Remember to ask questions, guys. I always tell parents, questions are the gateway to conversation. And the reason I say that is because when you ask specific questions to your child, they give specific answers back to you. All right. Know your limits. So we talked about our generation, like Alyssa was saying, and I was saying that our parents felt uncomfortable about talking about sex to us. Know your limits. If you feel uncomfortable about talking about drugs or alcohol or sex or the political situation, anything, if you feel funny talking about it, then I really encourage you to practice with somebody. Sit down and practice the conversation and the points that you want to put out for your children with a spouse, a partner, a friend, a parent. Practice. Don't just say, well, you know what? I feel like a fool sitting here talking about it. I feel totally goofy. My kid's not going to talk to me. They're going to laugh at me. I don't know what to say. How do I know what to say? I'm not a psychiatrist. Practice. It is so important. And yes, guys, your kids will talk to you if you help them to feel comfortable about talking about various things. Okay. Don't pretend to know everything. I mean, clearly, none of us know everything. None of us know everything there is to know. So, in order to have an environment where we can learn something new every day, where that's a tradition in your home, be authentic, be honest. When you don't know something, say, you know what, honey? I actually don't know. I'm going to look it up. I'm going to find out some information for you and we'll talk some more. Be authentic with them. They need to know that you are not God. You are human. There's only one God and you're not it. So be truthful to your kids. And while we're discussing about being authentic, if you have a situation that they're going through and you experienced a similar situation, tell them about how you responded. You know what? When I was 12, somebody offered me my first cigarette. And I didn't know what to do. There were 3 people with me and 2 of them were smoking. So I took a puff. That's actually the truth. And I started coughing like crazy, which most people do. And that was it. I was done with cigarettes. Number 1, they stunk. Number 2, they made me cough. Was not a great thing. And they made me feel kind of weird. So I don't like feeling weird. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I don't like that feeling of, not being in control. That's how I am personally. But talk about these things with your kids. Don't be afraid to talk about them. Yes, consistency, absolutely. That is like key in everything. Everything in your parenting is consistency. If you're not a consistent parent, you're losing control. Be consistent. Good advice, Alyssa. Okay. I already mentioned this, but I'm going to remind you, be age appropriate. What you're talking about to them, what you're helping them through. Recognize the age of your child. I will tell you this again, like I always tell you guys. Remember that the human brain does not fully develop until you are 25 years old. 25 years old. That's when you have a fully developed brain. So imagine your kids. They got a lot of nothing. They've got a lot of emotions, They don't know how to regulate them. They don't know what to do with them. They don't know how to react to them. They don't have all that logic and problem-solving abilities that we have. They don't have the tools to deal with COVID and say, oh, yeah, COVID's going to end. Why is COVID going to end? COVID's going to end because typhoid ended, polio ended, all the big pandemics ended. We know that. They don't know that. So they're feeling very stressed out over this situation that is still going on. They've spent a year almost out of school. They don't know if it's ever ending. So know the creature that you're talking to. Recognize that their brains are very much underdeveloped. Now, if they're 18, they're getting pretty well developed. There's a lot more you can explain to a 16-year-old, a 17-year-old than you can explain to a 6-year-old and a 7-year-old. Okay? Talk about sex or body. Can you give an example? Oh, for a 3-year-old. Yes. Is that you, Alyssa? Hi, Alicia. So if talking about for sex. Okay. So for toddlers, sex starts with recognizing the body parts, telling them about their body parts, because, for you, Alyssa, you have a boy, his body part sticks out. If you have a girl, it goes in. So you want to talk about it, call it by its name. You want to call it a penis, not like, oh, how's your woo-woo, your wee-wee, your ha-ha, whatever name you come up with. You can actually call it a penis. You can call it, you can call whatever you want, but let them know that this is actually their penis. And they are a boy because they have a penis and they have certain things in their body that make them a boy. I'm a girl. You say that like, Alyssa, you say, I'm a girl. I don't have a penis. Daddy has a penis. I have a vagina. You can talk very frankly about that. Also, let him, if he hasn't already, let him go to the bathroom with your husband. Let him go shower with your husband so he's familiar with how to go to the bathroom. Daddy has the same body parts. Mommy doesn't have the same body parts. It's what makes us different. And then you want to talk about privacy and respect for your own body. You don't want to get into the whole, this is how, the specifics of this is how babies are born. You can talk about how babies are born. You can discuss that mommy and daddies love each other. You can talk about responsibility. We prepared ourselves for having a baby. We thought about it. We talked about it. We decided this was a good time and we had you. And if you're planning another child, you can say, we're going to talk about, we're going to have another child. You can be very general with a toddler. You don't want to say, okay, so we got into bed and, the whole boingy boingy thing. You don't have to get into all that because that is hard to understand for 12-year-olds. Certainly a toddler isn't going to get it. And they're going to think you've lost your mind anyway. So very general, but not secretive. Okay. You don't want to be like, oh, we're not going to talk about that now, because they're curious, especially if they ask you, And toddlers now ask, where do babies come from? So you don't be like the vegetable garden. What is it? The stork brings it in and the vegetables grow, and whatever stories have conjured up over the years of how babies are born, tell them and talk about the love relationship between you and in your case, Alyssa, your husband. Some people have partners. Some people adopt their children. Talk about all that. That you can talk about simply and very generally to a child that's very young, that's a toddler age. Okay. When to start? The next question I get asked all the time. When do I start? It's never too early to start. Never. You can start talking to your child about these things immediately. Infants, you can discuss, you can't discuss because they're not talking back, but you can start as they grow, talking about, oh, we're going to change your diaper. We have to cover up your penis or your vagina because that's where your pee-pee comes from and your poo-poo comes out here. And you can start talking about that. And the reason it's good to talk about it is because it makes them feel comfortable when it comes time for potty training. A lot of times kids have a difficult time poo-pooing because they don't really understand it. And it's like leaving their body. It's like a part of them leaving their body. It's a strange little connection thing toddlers have. But if you start talking about it right from the get-go, it doesn't seem strange anymore. Oh, you poo-pooed. You know what we're going to do? We're going to take it from this diaper. We're going to put it in the potty. And we're going to flush it down the potty. Do that. Show them. Because they won't be so odd when it's time to poo-poo in the potty and flush it down. Let them flush it down. You know, not when they're, you know, a month old, clearly. You know, they got to get a little bigger. Okay. So it's never too early to start. Perfect time is when they start asking questions. Now, if you're talking about sex, if you're talking about drugs, talking about alcohol, if you're talking about any of these things, you're talking about something going on in the news, like what went on yesterday and what's been going on in the past few months. If they hear about it and they're old enough to take note of it, it's time to talk about it. Tell them what's going on. Tell them why people don't feel easy. Why are people on one side of the fence and not the other side of the fence? Do you believe it's okay to storm a building or destroy a building? Personally, I don't. That's as far as I'm going with the politics in this conversation. But doesn't make one destructive behavior better or correct if it's still a destructive behavior. You don't want your kids to think it's okay to destroy or destroy someone else's property. That's not okay. We want to teach our kids to be respectful and kind and courteous of other people and their belongings. Because a respectful, kind child can go to someone else's house and still be respectful and kind in someone else's house. They don't destroy things. They don't tear it up. So all this relates to what's going on now and is a good conversation starter for being kind and respectful to others. Remember that, you know, the older they get, the more they're going to hear about things just from their use of the internet. So monitor that internet use, you know, as much as you can, all the time if possible. Now, make your conversation go long enough. Don't rush through it. You want it to go long enough so that if your child's at the age of asking questions, they can ask questions. If you're sitting down with a teenager and you're having a conversation about sex, drugs, rock and roll, all that stuff, if you're having a conversation, let them ask questions and be proactive. At the end, say, do you have any questions? Does it sound crazy? Do you understand? Is there something I said that really is throwing you off? Let them ask questions. Questions are the gateway to conversation. So let them, don't just throw, whew, I'm over. That was done. Whew, that was a lot of work. Okay, I gotta go, honey. Hope you liked it. Hope you liked that little talk. No, let them talk. Sorry, I'm trying to cross my legs. Okay. We already said no judgment or criticism. Guys, sandwich your discussions. So I'm going to tell you about sandwiching. So the top bread is a compliment to your child. So there's always something wonderful you can compliment your child on. You know what? I really like the way you were so respectful to your brother, or I really like the way you spoke to me earlier in the day. Whatever. Then you want to get into the meat of the conversation. So a lot of times the compliment may relate to what you're talking about. And at the end of this long conversation, another compliment. And don't forget to ask them if they have questions, they want to talk about anything else, and let them know if they don't have questions right now, that you are always there for them to ask. Any questions come up, ask me. Okay. I think I've covered everything, honestly. Look, I forgot to put my this little bit up. So I'm going to show it. There we go. So I'm going to ask you guys, do you guys have any questions? Because, and if you don't have questions now, or if you're rewatching this because it's up and available to you, put your questions in the comments. Tag me in the question so that I see it. I will answer it and I will help you, because having difficult conversations is difficult. They wouldn't be called difficult conversations if they were easy. Talking about what color this piece of fruit is easy. Talking about drug use and abuse, not so easy. Talking about what you did in school today, fairly easy. Just get specific. Talking about your uncle who may have just committed suicide and, God forbid, and died, not so easy. Difficult conversations present themselves every day. And the way you approach it with your child is what will build that lasting trust and respect, so that they always feel like they can come to you to get answers. You always want them to know you're the person who's got answers for them and that can help them. Because remember, we talked about the human brain. Well, when kids become teenagers, guess what happens to the brain? Number one, it has the strongest belong. Number two, it becomes a huge risk taker. Number three, it wants to be with its friends. Sorry, it's, don't take it personally that they don't want to be with you. It is actually that their brain is wired to be with their friends. Their brain is wired to take risks at that age. And their brain is wired to belong. And if they don't feel like they belong in your home with you, they're going to find a place to belong, and it's not going to be good. So please, I really encourage you to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Get comfortable with having discussions that seem a little outside of what you feel okay with. Give yourself permission to make mistakes and let them know, you know what? I don't know everything on this topic, but I really wanted to talk to you about it and see how I could help. We all don't know everything. Nobody, the most genius person in the world doesn't know everything. We don't know what we don't know. And your child doesn't know what they don't know. So have a frank, honest, age-appropriate, respectful discussion about whatever it is you need to talk about. I love that. Be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Create a space at home so your kids feel, yes, absolutely. Feel like, yeah, absolutely. And you know what, guys? Set your home up for education. Have books out, have magazines. If your kid has difficulty reading and they just don't seem to like stuff, get comic books. If they love superheroes, comic books are a great way to start reading. Super fun. And what? They're reading. Get them fun magazines. Start them young. Get them a subscription to Ranger Rick. What's that other one? Something Turtle. National Geographic. Who doesn't love to get mail? Even though it doesn't come very fast anymore. But get them a subscription, their own little subscription to a magazine. They will love looking through it and reading it. There's all kinds of ways to encourage learning in your home. And what a great way to sit down when the magazine comes and talk to them about what's in it and teach them even more about magazine. Let them ask you questions about it. Make your home an environment for education, and they will feel comfortable about talking to you about anything. Trust, respect, and knowing that you are human is all the way you build that bond between you and your child. So that's what I have for you. If you have questions, guys, put them in the comments. Like I said, even if you're on the replay, give me a hashtag after party if you're on the replay. But if you have comments, put them in the comment. If you have questions, put them in the comments. Or if you have comments, put them in the comments. But make sure to tag me so I don't miss it. And if for some reason I don't see your question, you can private message me the question. I don't want to miss it. So feel free to private message me and reach out, guys. And if you want to talk more and you want a little help with your parenting journey, message me. We can jump on a call. There's no charge and talk about it. Okay. Go to talkwithcelia.com, talkwithcelia.com, and let's set up a time to talk about it. Okay. Guys, I'm grateful that you were on with me. I wish you days filled with peace, love, tons of laughter. Don't forget to laugh with your kids because it is the best medicine and super fun. Have fun with them while you're at it. They'll love it. And you're building memories. Build those memories. All right, guys. I will talk to you next time around the web and right here on Pumped Up Parenting. Bye, everybody.